But really, our aim is to demonstrate that you don't have to compromise on the function or performance of a product by choosing a material that is completely sustainable.
Welcome, neighbors, to Hometown Earth, the podcast that brings a down-to-earth approach to all of your sustainability questions. I'm your host, Lena Sanford, here on the Believe Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Here, we believe that everyone can change the world. Do you believe? I'm a Midwest gal with big dreams to discover what it takes to reduce my impact on this beautiful place we call Hometown Earth. Join me every Tuesday as we navigate what actions we can take, big or small, to make a positive impact in your life and the lives of your neighbors on Hometown Earth. Hello, neighbors. Did you know that every year over 31 billion bottles of wine are consumed worldwide? And I know I definitely play my part in that statistic. But instead of letting all of that cork go to waste, SOLE and ReCORK stepped in. And with the help of their recycling partners, ReCORK has collected over 110 million corks and counting, and stands as North America's largest natural wine cork recycling program. Cork is an amazing product of nature. Cork oak trees are huge carbon sinks by locking away carbon in their bark. Information from the ReCork website says that every time a cork oak is harvested, it begins to regenerate its bark again. This process is also great for the planet as more carbon is taken out of the atmosphere and locked away in its new bark. When the time comes to harvest the bark of the tree, which is what wine corks are made of, it is done so by hand only every 9 years. This process causes no environmental damage and not a single tree gets cut down. Isn't that amazing? And trust me, it only gets better. Today, you'll hear from Paul Maughan-Brown, the content manager for the Canadian supportive footwear brand SOLE, and their natural wine cork recycling program, ReCork. Paul grew up in South Africa, moved to Canada in 2018, and found his home working with a company that exists to make a truly positive impact on both people and planet. Since its launch in 2001, SOLE has helped millions of happy customers live life to the fullest with pain-free feet. SOLE launched ReCork in 2008 to extend the useful life of a naturally sustainable material, cork, to use it as a sustainable alternative to petroleum based synthetics. Now, ReCork is on the brink of releasing ReCork Recycled Cork, a revolutionary material that they believe will change the way people think about sustainability in the footwear industry. In this episode, we chat about the holistic approach to sustainability at SOLE and ReCork, their new ReCork material and CO2 initiative, and Paul shares his perspective on how to look at cork and sustainability in a new way. I had so much fun learning from this interview, and I'm excited that I now have a reason to buy more wine and save the corks, giving them a new life on my feet. But without any further delay, I'll put a cork in it and get on to the interview. Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining us on Hometown Earth. If you don't mind just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about what you do and why you love your job.
Firstly, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. So I am the copywriter and content manager for SOLE and ReCORK. SOLE being an orthopedic, sustainable footwear and insoles brand based in Canada. I'm here in Vancouver, BC. And ReCork being a natural wine cork recycling program. And it might seem like a strange combination of brands to have under one roof.
Yeah.
But basically, what we do is we take wine corks and post-industrial cork, and we recycle it to create the most sustainable footwear products on the market. And I love it because it just sort of fits straight into my wheelhouse of interests. The products themselves are used a lot by people, well, all range of people, but a lot of performance athletes. They're really there to take care of your feet, and I do a lot of my feet. I love running and hiking and snowboarding and being outdoors in general. And that sphere of interest links really nicely with a real uh, prioritization of sustainability and there's a real focus in the company on living life to the fullest and enjoying the planet,
Yeah.
our home, and taking care of it at the same time.
So you kind of get the word out about both of those brands, and what has there
Exactly.
been any highlights of your career there that are kind of fun anecdotes or anything you want to share about? You're the face almost.
Yeah, it's I've kind of become by default the face. One of
Yeah.
the things that's great about it is that it's a relatively small company. We've been around for a long time, but still a relatively small operation. So I've had a great ability to sort of shape the voice of the brands over the last few years that I've been working there. Just sort of took it upon myself to start creating some social media content and video content. I have a history of working in the film industry back at home in South Africa, and
Nice.
so the great thing about the brand is that they're so open to you sort of taking your role and running with it and turning it into the best version of it that you have in your mind. And I'm from South Africa, I'm from Cape Town, which is a beautiful, fantastic place, and I had a variety of different jobs there. But something that's been great is pre-pandemic was going down to Denver and going to the outdoor retailer trade show and feeling like I was really in the heart of the engine room almost of the outdoor industry, where all
Yeah.
the big brands are there to meet and discuss and show what they have on offer. I was like a little kid in a candy store almost.
Well, so if you don't mind, kind of, you kind of mentioned it. What is, how is ReCork and SOLE different, and kind of what's the vision for ReCork specifically?
Sure. So I mean, I'll give you the sort of background story of ReCork, I guess, which will help to explain it. Which is
Yeah.
that so our CEO Mike started SOLE in 2001 to make affordable over-the-counter insoles that could perform the same function as a prescription orthotic, but at an affordable price. And a few years down the line, he started thinking really hard about how do I do the same thing, but do it in a more sustainable way. What is the material that we can use? How can we improve our processes to do this in a way that reduces our impact, or in a dream world actually ends up having a positive impact rather than just mitigating the negative impact that you have inherently as a producer of goods. And he was in kind of quite a typical Canadian story for me. He was in a lake house. He was at a friend's lake
Ah,
house.
is that a Canadian thing? I didn't even
Well, it's not.
know.
There's just so many lakes here. It's not something
Oh,
in South
okay.
Africa. There's no such thing as lake
Yeah.
houses in South Africa. Really, a beach house maybe. But anyway, he was at his friend's lake house and he was admiring this cork flooring, which had been there
Mm.
for 60
Yeah.
years. And it was this beautiful, it felt great underfoot and it looked nice and it had been preserved really impressively over 60 years. And the light bulb went off in his head, like maybe cork is the
Yeah.
is the thing. Maybe cork is the material I've been sort of dreaming about. And sure enough, he did his research and figured out just exactly how sustainable cork is,
Wow.
which we'll get to, I'm sure. One thing led to another, and he sort of said, well, how can we source cork in a practical way that people will be really enthusiastic about, and what happens to wine corks after they are used, and the idea of ReCork was born, and so that was in 2008. SOLE launched ReCork as a way for people and businesses around North America to collect and recycle their natural corks.
I don't think people realize that, your soles or your shoes, or even your shoes in general, are plastic. Most of them are plastic.
That's the thing. It's sort of it's a big mental hurdle to get over, really, is
Yeah.
that people don't realize how much of what you use and interact with on a day-to-day basis is plastic. It may not feel like a plastic shopping bag
Yeah.
or what have you, but it's a type of plastic. The foams in almost all running shoes and sneakers, uh, those are a type of plastic that derive from fossil fuels. So one of the major ones is ethyl vinyl acetate, which is ethylene, which is manipulated
Yeah. Yeah.
in refineries to create this spongy, super high performance material, but a material that is derived directly from fossil fuels. It's part of the fossil fuel industry. It's a huge part of the fossil fuel industry. When we talk about fossil fuel industry, people think about, you know, gasoline. That's your brain immediately goes to that, but it's really so much more than that. And so that was one of the things about Cork in particular was the idea of how to, it's all very well to make something that's sustainable, but it's not sustainable if it doesn't perform the same function.
Right. Then people won't use it.
People won't use it. People won't be interested in it,
Right.
and people will throw it away. You know,
Right.
if it doesn't work the way that it should work, it's not helpful to have something that's trash.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk about that just generally the sustainability of cork and kind of that process of of essentially harvesting cork.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, let me backtrack one step, which
Yeah,
is to
yeah.
say, which is to speak to those sort of inherent performance qualities of cork.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that's so fantastic. It's naturally moisture wicking. It's naturally buoyant. It's naturally insulating. It's great for temperature insulation. It's naturally antimicrobial. It's hugely versatile. It's a hugely versatile material. It's been used for everything from flooring to insulating buildings to, it's in spaceships. I don't know if you know this, but
No,
cork
I didn't know
was
that.
part of the construction of the first um, I don't know. I don't want to misspeak here, but I believe that they insulated that they needed a material that was light enough to insulate the capsule upon re-entry into the atmosphere. I
Right.
think, and cork
Yeah.
was but it definitely wasn't. It's in space travel.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's this amazingly versatile material, but it's also incredibly sustainable. So it's one of these. It's it's almost unique in that it has a vast potential variety of human applications
Mhm.
at the same time as being fantastically sustainable. So why it's so sustainable is it grows as the bark of a cork oak tree.
That kinda blew my mind, I'll have to tell you, because I was, like, looking into ReCork and, I drink a lot of wine, so, that's kinda how I found y'all, and I was just like, "Oh, are you kidding me? Like, it's the bark of it?" I had no idea.
Exactly. So it kind of it's funny because it grows on trees, but it
Yeah.
grows it's the super material that literally grows on trees.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's as the bark, which is really unique. So on most trees, and it's a big tree. It's an oak tree. It's a type of
Yeah.
oak tree. So they grow to sort of 20 meters tall. I don't know what that is in feet.
Don't put me
But
on the spot, I don't know that either.
yeah. But I remember when I was young, always learning that to one of the methods of controlling invasive species of trees was that they would ring bark the tree. So they would cut a section of bark out of the tree, and that would, if as long as it went the whole way around the tree, that would effectively kill the tree. But cork has this unique outer layer of its bark, which at the right time of year can be separated from the rest of the bark and actually just peeled away off the tree, um, literally like peeling a fruit almost. And it's during the summer months, and it grows in mainly in Mediterranean Europe and North Africa.
Yeah.
Um, and they harvest it by hand. They drive into a cork forest and with an axe, in a sort of highly skilled trade that's passed down over generations.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just make cuts in the bark that doesn't actually harm the tree and peel away strips of bark off the tree, and then what happens is that tree regenerates its bark. It grows the bark back over the next 9 to 12 years.
That's so
So
crazy.
the tree will be harvested once every 9 to 12 years. So once a decade, you get a fresh crop of this cork.
Yeah.
The tree's not cut down. It's actually illegal to cut down a cork tree in Portugal. Portugal is the main hub of cork. If you want to cut down a cork tree, you've got to write to the government and get
Wow.
written permission to do it. It's like it's a national tree.
I wish that was all trees.
Right? Exactly. Um, so, and what's even more remarkable is that if you think about it, the way that a plant grows is through photosynthesis. And the way that works is that they're absorbing carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And now,
Mhm.
the whole planet's major problem is the amount of carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Um, and so when you take away, so not in that cork, not only have you been the tree has been growing for the last 10 years in order to grow that cork bark.
Mhm.
But then when you take away the bark, the tree now has to suddenly stimulate a whole lot more regrowth. So you actually boost the carbon absorption of the tree by up to 5 times while it works to regrow the bark.
If you're doing it sustainably, then it really is helping, it's carbon negative essentially.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's a deeply carbon negative material. So in the end, the scientific research shows that for every ton of cork harvested from the cork oak forest, cork oak trees absorb an average of 55 tons of CO2.
That's insane.
So, and the upper level of the scale is up to 73 tons. So, whatever, when you have a wine cork, that wine cork is worth 73 times its own weight in carbon dioxide absorbed from the atmosphere.
Yeah, wow.
So it's really like this incredible material
Yeah, yeah.
that's totally sustainable. It regrows, and those trees grow. That's the other thing that's worth noting is those trees grow for upwards of 200 years,
Mhm.
and that's one important thing. One sort of basic concept in carbon sequestration is that the bigger and denser trees would, the more carbon dioxide it absorbs. So it really is sort of a model
Yeah.
crop.
And it extends their life once you're harvesting them like that and everything. It's just so crazy. So,
Yeah.
so as far as like, and we're talking about this is wine corks. So like, is wine corks just like the main source that is used for cork, like, or the main product that is made
Mm.
with cork?
Yeah. So um, I guess we chose it because it is so sustainable, and we can make what we want to make out of it.
Yeah,
That was sort of priority number one: is choose a material that will fill the function that we need from
yeah,
it. Do it in a way that's sustainably. Um, and I think we really liked the idea. I mean, it was really before my time at the company, but I
right,
think one of the things that was really inspiring to them was there's this incredibly valuable, sustainable material that people are throwing away.
right. They're just popping it in a bottle and then throwing it away.
And the thing is, when you have that wine cork in your hand, people have a sense generally like this is a special thing in some way. A lot of people will be like, oh, what am I going to do with this cork? It feels too good to just chuck it out.
Right, right.
But what do I do with it?
'Cause they're not recyclable in regular recycling.
No,
Right.
exactly. You need a specific program in order to do it. But to answer your question in terms of the industry as a whole, um, wine corks are the main product from the sort of top 30% of the quality of cork bark that they get
Okay.
from that cork. They'll actually punch the corks out of the bark. They'll take it as a sheet and literally punch a hole in it and punch out the cork. And then with the leftovers from that,
Yeah.
that becomes post-industrial recycled. So we get part of our recycling stream comes from the
The
offcuts
remnants.
and trimmings.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it'll also be used in a variety of other applications, like cork boards and coasters and
Yeah.
yeah, cork fabrics.
So essentially, y'all get all of these corks and you grind them down and make them into just a sheet of cork. Like, what does that look like? And do you make them into the coasters and stuff like that, or just the soles?
So, for the sake of clarity, we get the corks both from kitchens and restaurants around
Right.
North America, and we do get a certain percentage direct from the cork industry
Right.
as a post-industrial. So we have post-consumer and post-industrial inputs into our recycling stream. And then what we do personally ourselves is turn it into ReCork recycled cork. And in terms of Sole then uses ReCork recycled cork to create insoles and sandals, footwear products.
Right.
But that's not necessarily. We have had also in the past ReCork specific products. That we had a yoga block called the
Hmm.
198 block, which took 198 wine corks to create.
Wow. They're so small. That's hard.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
they get
that's hard to
ground down
believe.
deep
Yeah.
and packed in.
Packed. Interesting.
But yeah, at the moment, our focus is on our new formula of ReCork recycled cork, which is going to it's going to be in a new shoe, which I can show you in a second.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be just for our own use.
Hmm.
We've got some really exciting collaborations with
Nice.
other brands coming down the pipe. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're looking forward to, our hope really is that we can have as big an impact as possible in the footwear industry to begin with, seeing as that's
Right.
our wheelhouse, if you will, and beyond in time. But really, our aim is to show, to demonstrate that you don't have to compromise on the function or performance of a product by choosing a material that is completely sustainable to manufacture and
Yeah.
use.
Well, like kind of you mentioned, I mean, you are hiking, traveling a lot. Like you're the face. I've seen all the awesome, beautiful hikes on the ReCork page and on the Soul page. So essentially, like, what is the longest, or how many pairs of soles do you have, and what's the longest and hardest you've kind of run them out? Because I mean, that's what we're talking about, is that it can be sustainable. And some pairs of shoes I've owned for a long time and hiked in them, and they still are holding up. So I think a lot of people think of cork like cork boards. They don't really hold up that well, and
Mm,
they don't. Different cork products, even wine corks, sometimes break off. So I think that's probably what's in a lot of people's heads, and maybe a misconception about these cork products. So what is
sure.
like the longest or hardest you've kind of ran these soles?
I mean, I've had some in my running shoes that I run with 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah,
I've had them for 2 or 3 years now, I guess. It varies for different people,
yeah, yeah,
And look, it's something that's been very important to us, is continually refining our processes for recycling the cork.
yeah.
And it is a tricky material to work with, and we have had in the past some difficulties with exactly that. It can be slightly brittle at
Yeah.
times.
Mhm.
So we'll even sometimes recommend to people, I can show you right here. So here we have a sole footbed, and you can see all of this is completely ground up wine corks. And
Yeah.
so we'll sometimes say to people, if you're going to be taking this and moving it between all of your different shoes on a daily and
Yeah.
going in and out and in and out and in and out, then you might be better off choosing the version of this that we make from EVA, because we do have an alternative. It's not only
Okay.
cork products, but we also have the EVA version. But
Interesting.
if it's going to be going in and you're going to be leaving it in your shoe, and say your favorite pair of hiking boots or your favorite pair of running shoes or whatever it is, and it's going to stay in there, maybe take it out every now and then.
Yeah. Buy a couple
Um,
pairs. That's the point. Buy a
buy a
couple.
couple
Put them
pairs,
in all your shoes.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
put them one for every
Yeah,
pair, and
exactly.
people do, because
Yeah.
people just love the feel of our footbed so much that they say, well, shit, I couldn't be bothered to take
Yeah.
them in and out every. So it's a great edition, people will be like, "Ooh, new shoes, new
Yeah.
pair of soles." But so the fantastic thing, having said that, is that what we've been working on for a long time is perfecting a new way of actually recycling the cork to create our new ReCork recycled cork,
Okay.
which is super durable. We can control how soft it is, how much cushioning it has. It's
Mhm.
incredibly light, and so the result of that is that we've made it.
Wow.
It's debuting in this midsole um,
That's a beautiful
of.
shoe.
It's a beautiful shoe, right?
If
Yeah,
somebody's listening
thanks.
to this, I'm looking at a beautiful pair of Soul shoes right now.
So this is, I mean, it's a very cool shoe as well. So we made it in collaboration with a brand called United by Blue,
Okay.
who are based in Philadelphia, and they created. What happened was we designed the whole shoe, and so we
Mhm.
created this material, this midsole material, and we thought, well, we're gonna make this into footwear, but we don't want to just stop at the midsole. Like
Right.
let's push this as far as we can go. Let's see how
Yeah.
sustainable we can make it from tongue to tread.
Yeah.
Uh, this sort of the catchphrase. And so it's merino wool,
Nice.
recycled PET laces, merino wool upper. The insole is going to be made out of a green EVA, a
Okay.
sugarcane based green EVA, which is actually carbon negative as well from the carbon trapping of
Nice.
the sugarcane. Um, the outsole is made with natural rubber. You can see it's got these kind of cool,
Yeah.
even design things like, oh well, we need grip on the bottom. How
Right.
do we make it grippy? Instead of adding on more rubber, well, we'll just cut some of it out so it's grip,
Yeah.
but it's less material, but
Yeah.
achieving the same purpose. So that was really the whole idea, was a shoe that from top to bottom is made with natural or recycled or sustainable
Right.
materials that do the same job as a purely synthetic alternative.
Yeah. Y'all are
And
kinda
then,
trailblazing that for sure. Because I even tried to find anybody else that was really doing what y'all were doing all together, you've got all these working pieces, and, that's what I love about ReCork and Soul is that it's all y'all are all transparent about how you're working together and, making these awesome products.
and it's sort of a holistic approach
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
each decision that gets made from a perspective of looking at the overall impact, looking at
Yeah.
function, sustainability, efficiency, whatever it might be. But
Yeah.
I'll just say that the last piece of this is, so it's got this sort of baffled insulation.
Mhm.
And so the shoe as a whole was actually nominated for an Outdoor Retailer Innovation
Oh,
Award. And
wow.
at that event, the winners of that award were United by Blue, who won
Oh,
it with
nice.
their bison shield insulation. So they take bison fur, that's a byproduct of the ranching industry, and they say, don't just throw that away. We'll use that.
Interesting.
That's like the highest performing
Yeah.
natural insulation fiber, and they
Yeah.
create this bison shield insulation from that. So that was sort of the final piece of the
That's
puzzle. We've
insane.
got this whole shoe, we've got all of these different components, and yeah, we approached by Blue, and then together we
That's
yeah.
nuts. So when can people buy those shoes or even, find out more about them?
Yeah. So coming up soon, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be
Yeah.
releasing them on it's going to be a limited production run.
Mhm.
We actually released them on Kickstarter a couple of years ago. The shoe was super well received and very quickly reached our funding goal.
Yeah.
Um, with COVID, and we've had some setbacks along the way. But really, the main thing was we wanted to be 100% sure that the cork midsole that went into that shoe was going to be the very best possible version of the formula, the actual material. We wanted to make
Right.
sure it was completely dialed in before we sent it out. So it's been a couple of years coming. There's already a certain proportion of the production run is allocated to Kickstarter backers who
Ah,
finally going
nice.
to get their shoes. We're all super excited to get the shoes out to the backers.
I bet that R&D team is just so happy. They're so happy that it's finally getting out to the world.
For sure, we're all so excited. We've all been waiting, and yeah, looking forward to it immensely. Of course, for the R&D team, it's no time to rest. They straight on to the next thing. It's they
Yeah.
don't, they
Yeah.
might pop a cork or two, and
Oh,
then straight back to
absolutely.
work. Um, but yeah, then so the remainder of the shoes are going to be made available as early as the next couple of weeks on a made for you. So we've launched this new production model,
Okay.
which is aimed at being a sort of a more sustainable production model overall, where you can come onto the Sole website and you can order a pair of, in this case, the Jasper Chuckers, the Sole and
Mhm.
UVB Jasper Chuckers, and you
Yep.
say, I want a pair. This is the size I want and the color that I want. And we say, fantastic, thanks very much. We're going to make those shoes for you.
Yeah.
You get them at a discounted rate because you're
Nice.
going to have to wait a few months in order to get them. But what it does is it helps us a lot with forecasting our ordering. So if we're
Right.
ordering a batch of footwear and we can see that out of the people who've ordered on a made for you or made for them basis, there was, we know what the curve is in terms of sizes, but also colors, what's actually going to be more popular this season, that sort of thing. So what it ends up doing is avoiding having wasted
Just
stock.
overproduction in general. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, they'll be available online at yoursole.com
Nice.
in the coming weeks.
You kind of mentioned it a little bit. Part of another aspect of what you're doing, we're just branching all out here.
Yeah,
The CO2 negative initiative, is that a ReCork thing or is that a Soul thing? Is that all of y'all together? How does that, what does that
it's a
look
bit of
like?
both, right?
Yeah,
So
let's hear about it.
so SOLE and ReCORK, we're all the same people,
Yeah.
but we
Just
do
different
the
hats, you know?
yeah, exactly. Different. Well, the same email signature actually,
Yeah.
but different brands. Um, but so that was a key part of our whole process and our whole way of thinking about the products that we're making is that people really deserve to know what impacts a product that they are buying is going to have.
Right.
And the most important measure today in the face of the climate crisis is what does this product do in terms of carbon dioxide equivalent greenhouse gas emissions?
Right.
So CO2 negative is an initiative to promote and provide branding for or labeling rather for a product's carbon impact.
So it's a
Um,
certification that people can get.
it's a certification that people can get, but not just a certification. It's really trying to drive a movement to say we believe all products should be labeled with their impacts. We believe you should be able to, just like you pick up a chocolate bar or a can of whatever in the grocery store, and there's a list on there that tells you how many calories and it tells you what's the impact on your body of this thing that I'm about to consume, what's the impact on the planet of this item that I'm going to buy? And so
Right.
CO2 negative, we say that all products should be labeled with their carbon impact, and we also provide carbon negative certification and labeling if you can show us that your product is carbon negative, or if your product is carbon positive and you have taken steps to offset at least 110% of the impact.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a line of these footbeds, the performance footbeds with SOLE are
Mhm.
certified carbon negative um, because they're made with, primarily because they're made with cork.
And that looks at the entire lifestyle, so or the life cycle rather of the product. So, that's why cork is so fantastic.
Exactly.
Negative.
So, and it's no, we're all about transparency and being
Right.
thorough, and so we contracted a third party experts in life cycle analyses, and they conducted a thorough analysis of this product, of the performance footbed product.
Nice.
And we got a measure of exactly where our impacts were in terms of the product. And then we calculated the amount of carbon absorbed by cork oak trees while growing the cork on a per weight basis.
Okay.
And you remember earlier I said that cork has it's got a maximum of 73 times its own weight of CO2 absorbed. We didn't use that number because we didn't want to artificially
Weigh the
inflate.
scales. Yeah.
Exactly. So we said, okay, no, we take the average, we're going to take that, which is the sensible thing to do. We take the average amount of CO2 absorbed by a cork oak tree growing cork, and we use that on a per weight basis to calculate how much CO2 has been absorbed by cork oak trees in growing the cork that we've used in this product.
Right.
And then the impact of the entire life cycle gets added to that, and the result is still, in the case of the cork footbeds, a carbon negative impacts.
I think that's really great. Like, I agree. I think people do need to know exactly, what the consumption is there, because it's almost like you mentioned earlier, people associate, fossil fuels with gasoline or anything like that. And I think that partially is because, when you go to a gas station, you know exactly how much that's costing you. You know exactly, you can see it. And I think that's why people can say, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to stop driving my car or something like that, and know maybe exactly how much that they're reducing. And so having that labeling on there and that transparency really can help people connect it in their minds for things that,
For sure.
a shoe, like we said, most people don't know that that's plastic. So I think it would definitely help start to bridge those gaps for people. So I'm really excited about that. Have y'all had much rollout on that yet, or getting people signed up?
It's sort of slow and steady start.
Yeah.
We focus primarily on the products that we make ourselves to begin with, to sort of verify exactly how the processes are going to work, how the calculation is going to work. But we're looking forward to more collaborations in the future for sure.
Nice.
And I think first and foremost, from a personal point of view, at least, it feels fantastic to be working within an organization that's part of the voice for good, if you know
Right.
what I mean. So
I do.
it's like no matter how many brands we get signed up or certified, or it's about spreading the word, spreading the
Yeah.
message. Ultimately, what I would definitely like to see, and what I think I can speak on behalf of the company, we would love to see it be legislated.
Yeah.
It's only something that a lot of people don't know. It's only as recently as the mid '90s that it became
Required. Yeah.
required that you had to
Yeah.
have nutrition labeling on food,
Yeah.
right? So what
It's
if
still not
so
on a
like why
lot of
not?
stuff,
It's still not on a lot of stuff, but so why
Yeah.
not say, okay, sorry, the law is people have to be able to
Yeah.
get an impression or have a reliable idea of
Yeah.
their own impact. So from now
Yeah.
on, if you make something, you got to label it with how much impact it has.
Yeah, there's no, I didn't know that it was this, that, or the other. It really forces companies to step up and take responsibility
Take
essentially for.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
And
love
that's
that.
also a key thing, is that it's not necessarily putting the responsibility on the consumer for managing the impact, but it's empowering people. So it's quite important that we're not trying to say it's the consumer's fault, or the consumer has to be consumer should be responsible, we believe, but more than anything else, the consumer should be empowered to be able to make
Informed
those types of
decisions.
informed decisions.
Yeah.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
that's really part of the whole climate crisis,
Right.
is a real sense of disempowerment or frustration, a sense of
Yeah.
like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah.
How do I,
Absolutely.
like, oh, this is all, it's also sort of high level, and like, what can I actually, but if you were able to, in the grocery store or the clothes store, wherever you were, be able to say like, oh no, okay, I'm going to choose this over this,
Yeah.
and that's the better, according to my priorities or whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be the more responsible decision. I think that it gives people a real sense of taking some control.
Right. That's really exciting. And so other than that, and hopefully promoting that and letting people, spreading awareness essentially about that initiative, and purchasing Soul's shoes, how can people get involved with ReCork specifically? You kind of alluded to, you have partners, so kind of what does that look like for the individual to be able to make a difference?
So anybody can get involved by recycling their natural wine corks.
Mhm.
That's one thing that's important to point out. We don't recycle any sort of plastic fake corks.
How can you tell the
Or
difference?
No, it's a good question. It's not always easy, but
No, it's not.
um, it's often actually a feel thing
Yeah.
more than those plastic fake corks have sort of a waxy
Yeah.
sheen to them. And also, with cork, as you pointed out, it can kind of crumble sometimes a little bit.
Mhm.
So get stuck in,
Yeah.
play with it a little bit. Is it going to crumble a little bit? Or have one for reference. Have one that
Right.
is natural cork for reference.
Yeah.
But what people can do is go onto recork.com, recork.com. Right there, we've got a tab saying get involved. And they can find ReCork collection partners, public cork collection partners. We have a
Yeah.
map with locations, and you can bring your cork down to your nearest ReCork location. And if there isn't one nearby, you can go to your local grocery store or wherever. It could be your
Yeah.
office block. It can be anyone. Anyone can sign up to be a collection point and recycle corks either from the public or just in the back end of your own business. So if you
Yeah.
run a restaurant or a bar, or maybe you're a regular at a bar, you can go to the bar and say, look, you guys go through a lot of corks. Why don't you sign up to recycle your corks with ReCork?
Yeah.
The program is completely free. The only cost involved is actually shipping the corks
Right.
to us.
And they can also find on y'all's website, essentially wine brands that have natural corks, right?
Yeah, so we have a platform called Cork Watch,
Mhm. I
which is
like
sort of
that
an
name.
yeah, it's an open source platform for people to go and
Nice.
identify their own or not their own, but specific wine types that they've identified
Right.
that have natural cork. Yeah, it's something that we often get is because we're first and foremost advocates for choosing cork.
Yeah.
Um, it's something that I didn't say. This is one of the stats that I like rattling off is that an aluminum screw cap takes 24 times more CO2 emissions to produce than a natural cork.
Wow.
So choose natural cork whenever you can,
Yeah.
whether it be in your wine or in you know coasters or
Yeah.
pinboards or whatever it is. If there's an option that's natural cork, choose the natural cork option because that's the most
Wow.
environmentally friendly option you have available to you.
Yeah.
In terms of go and check out Cork Watch, but it's also finding a favorite. It can be difficult to because corks are usually covered up.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a favorite? Are you a
I'm
wine
I'm
connoisseur?
not such a wine drinker to be honest,
Ah. Yeah,
personally.
yeah.
But you know what? There actually are. You do find these days quite a lot of beers that are, a lot of craft breweries are moving into
Interesting.
corking their beers rather than using a traditional
Hmm.
cap.
Okay, that's
Um,
interesting. I
but
haven't seen
yeah,
that, but I'm gonna try to find
yeah,
some of
no,
those
it
too.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, especially after hearing that aluminum cap stack. Gosh.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, so kind of before I let you off the hook here, is there any misconceptions that you kind of want to lay to rest about cork or recork or anything like that before
Totally.
we go?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. Um, there's this thing that happens often, social media comments, or even I think things like outdoor retailer, people come up to us and they'll be like, "But isn't cork endangered?"
Yeah.
Like, why are you? I thought Cork was endangered. And it's just a complete, I don't know where it came
Where
from. I don't know if it was the aluminum industry that was,
Yeah.
putting out false information.
Yeah. Maybe it's
But
because not that many people are adopting it. I don't know. I don't know. That's strange.
I really don't know. I don't know where it came from.
So
But the
it's not
point is
true.
that, well, the point is that using cork doesn't harm the tree.
Yep.
It can't. There's no. If as soon as you know that harvesting cork doesn't harm it doesn't. The idea that it's endangered and therefore you shouldn't use cork just doesn't make any sense. Especially if you consider that almost everything these days, and cork definitely falls into this bracket, is controlled by human economies. So cork exists for as long as human beings have a financial incentive for planting and caring for cork oak
Right.
forests. Like
Yeah.
that's as the biggest threat to cork is a collapse in the demand for cork,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people going in and saying, well, we don't have, this isn't yielding us any value anymore financially, so we're going to replace these cork trees with whatever else it might be. So cork is not endangered. The more you use it, the better it is for the cork industry. The more you use it, the better it is for the planet. The more you use it, the better it is for yourself, probably, because it's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, yeah,
So we'll
that's the
put the
misconception.
Cork Buster stamp of myth on that one.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Nice. How can people get connected with you or your team?
Find us on social media, at ReCork, or at ReCork official on Instagram, or at It's Your Soul.
Mhm.
Or me, if you want to email me, feel free. I'm paul@yoursole.com.
All right. Well, I'll be sure to link all those in the show notes. And I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with me today, Paul.
No problem. I appreciate you having me and listening to my cork enthusiasm.
We love it. We love it. Well, have a good rest of your day.
Thanks a lot. You too.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Hometown Earth as much as I did. Let us know by rating and subscribing so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week on Tuesday. Head to the show notes, linked in the episode description for more details, and let us know in the comments what you want to hear next. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Believe.com and at Believe Podcasts. And you can find more about the podcast on Instagram at Hometown Earth or connect with me personally at Lena Saintford. We all know change needs to happen, so let's get started right here at Hometown Earth.